Welcome to Fry Your Chickens, the podcast about facing fears, negativities, and self-doubts that can hold us back. Or as I like to call them, chickens. Get ready because it's time to tell those chickens that are holding you back to shut the cluck up and to learn how real people did exactly that. I'm your host, Phil Barth. Let's get ready to fry. Welcome to Fry Your Chickens, the podcast dedicated to helping you make those chickens inside of your head shut the cluck up. Today I sit down with a good friend of mine, Mike Davis. Mike is the owner of Speaking CPR. Mike tells a lot of good stories in this podcast, and Mike can help you tell good stories as well. We had a lot of fun and a lot of laughs. I hope you enjoy it. Mike Davis, welcome to Fry Your Chickens.
Thank you, Phil.
You and I have known each other for a little while. I mean, we're not that old that it would be a long time.
Well, we've known each other almost 20 years, but sometimes it feels like 40, right?
Yeah, that's fair. We've known each other since kindergarten, I think.
That's exactly right.
So we met in Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Competed for a while. You kicked my butt for a while, and then I learned. I learned from you.
No. Let's be fair. You kicked my butt and haven't stopped. Let's just call it what it is. And that's a chicken I need to fry. Not that I'm bitter or anything.
Well, we've talked about this. Whichever one of us kicked the other one's butt, or whichever the both of us lost to yet another speaker, we always pitched in and helped the speaker who moved on. And I've always appreciated that about you. You've given me you've laid a lot of wisdom on me over the years, and I really appreciate that.
What I loved about that experience was, especially when you and David Levy and Chris Nogtraub and I were going, I mean, we always, inevitably, we knew we would compete against one another. And it was like, no question, as soon as one of us went on, everybody else became that person's team. And it got Chris to the finals, it got you to the finals, and that was rewarding in itself.
It really was, and it was a lot of fun. And you cheer for the other person, whoever kicked your butt that particular year. I think the Chris Nogtraub year, we were all going to have "I finished second to Chris" T-shirts all along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
and then there was 2015, where you helped coach me. And what did I do to thank you for the coaching? 1 week before the semifinals in Las Vegas, I went and had a heart attack, which is really self-centered of me, and I apologize for that.
Because of the theme of your show and what you talk about, that's a chicken I'm still frying. I thought it was very selfish of you to take all of my hard work and go and have a heart attack a week before.
Well, and honestly,
come on, Phil.
It was about you. That's what I wasn't kidding at the time.
I know if you're listening to this right now and you don't know Phil and me, you're thinking, this guy Davis is a real ass. You might think that anyway.
Episode, you already know I'm the real ass. So there you go. Well, and Mike was one of a few people that stopped and visited me in the hospital. I think it was the day after I had the stents put in. And so I'm going to clarify all of this right now by saying when Mike got to the hospital, Mike knew, I knew, and everybody else knew that this wasn't the heart attack that was going to end my life. I hate the way I said that. My life was not going to end from the heart attack. Because when I say this wasn't the heart attack that was going to end my life, people are like, okay, so when will that come? At any rate, Mike came bearing gifts, and it is a gift I have treasured for these past 10 years, and here it is, the Onion Book of Known Knowledge. It's hilarious. I probably told you this, but my son Tom, who was 13 at the time, he felt like it was his personal gift. And he would read it, and then he would come over to me and say, Dad, you got to check this one out. And it's a hilarious book. And I think that speaks to our relationship, that it's always been the power of humor. And obviously, if the heart attack had been more serious, you would not have come with this. You probably would have come with a Monty Python and the Holy Grail or something like that. But
no, I could have come dressed in black and said, do you need a sixth? I'll grab the rail if you need to.
That's freaking brilliant. I thought you'd
Thank you.
bring out your dad.
I could do that too.
At any rate, and again, just so people know that I wasn't, oh my gosh, how could you take this so not seriously? Not long either before or after that, the lady came in to drain the air out of the whatever they block your vein with after they put the stent up there. They have to block it with blood thinners. And she said, now I'm going to drain some air out of this. And she turned around and faced you back to me. And as she drained it, I went, and of course, you and David immediately started laughing. And you got thrown out. She had a look on her face like, Barth, if I could throw your ass out, you'd be going too.
That's right. Yeah. I've never been thrown out of a bar, but I take a lot of pride in saying that I've gotten thrown out of a hospital room. Absolutely.
This idiot needs to rest. You guys leave.
And Beth, if the nurse hadn't, Beth was tossing us anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, and it's been a 20-year friendship where we have been able to laugh.
Absolutely.
And honestly, that is all about frying the chickens, because I will tell you, when I was in the ER and learned I'd had a heart attack, there's a lot of chickens involved in that. Mm-hmm. And clearly there was relief after I realized that the stents are going to take care of this. I'm going to need to obviously make some lifestyle changes, but there was relief. And then we just used some humor to kind of completely diffuse what had been a very tense, nerve-wracking, chicken-filled type of situation. And I think when we did that, the chickens were like, screw it, we're out of here. They're going to just laugh the whole time. We'll go find somebody else to talk about.
Yeah.
Enough about me, even though, this is my podcast. As a guest, I should probably at some point talk about you. You are the...
no, wait. The line you should have used there was enough about me. Michael, what do you think about me?
As the founder of Speaking CPR, how much do you know Bill Barth? Tell us about Speaking CPR. I know you are the head guru of Speaking CPR. How long have you been doing this, and what do you do?
What I do is I help business owners, fellow speakers, professionals increase their impact in their influence and sell more of their product, service, or idea through improved communication and presentation. That's the short answer. I started this company in 2011, but it was because of my Toastmaster experience that, and we'll get into the chickens later, but I fried a lot of chickens because of Toastmasters. But that was where I discovered that speaking is not a native skill, it's a learned skill, which blew my mind back in 1994. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought this was something you were born with. And because of that, I discovered a love and a passion. It became a calling. I was a financial advisor, and I could have stayed in that career and made good money, but it wasn't satisfying. So I made the big leap at 55 and said, burn the boats. I mean, I cut all ties to that industry so I wouldn't have an escape route. And I said, I'm going to help people become better communicators, because I'm convinced this is the number one problem in business and personal relationships is communication.
Absolutely. Tell me about the chickens, because you had a corporate job and you are now going out on your own. What kind of chickens did you have to deal with?
Two big ones, and one I just discovered last year. The big one early on was that when I was 6 years old, first grade, my first grade teacher humiliated me in front of my classmates. And I made a vow that day, I will never stand in front of people again. Just not going to do it. And I kept that for 25 years until I'm a fairly new financial planner. I'm sitting in my boss's office. Now, you've probably had one of those bosses that just intimidated you being in the room with them. I don't think everybody has. Well, this guy gave off the vibe of a mafia don. Right? He had the slick back hair, high back leather chair, and he looks at me across his desk and says, Michael, you disappoint me. You're doing a lousy job getting us new clients. You're going to start presenting retirement planning workshops so you can get some new business in here. I'm what? See, what he didn't know, and nobody knew, was my little vow was, I'm not standing in front of anybody. But then he said, do this or you finished here. So now I've got a greater fear, losing my job and my income. So I've got to handle this. I go out and I give some workshops and I fail miserably. And, 6 weeks later, he's like, I don't believe this. You haven't sold one person. Fix this or you are finished. So out of desperation, I find this group, Toastmasters. And that's what, not only did I learn speaking skills and how to evaluate others and help, I discovered those chickens, those messages that I'd buried. I didn't remember the first great incident until I was in my 30s. And with the help of a woman named Sandy, who was an experienced, Sandy, and she helped me see those messages that were holding me back. And because of that, I went out there and I started speaking more and more and got some confidence. But the big chicken came last year, 61 years old. And I'm talking to my son, Sean. And you know this about me, is that when I was a little guy, I was 2 years old. My father had immigrated to the States. And when I was 2, my father left. Never saw him again. So Sean, my son, asked me, why do you think your father left? And I said, I don't know. Guess he didn't think I was worth sticking around for. Holy crap. That's the answer I've been looking for. For all my adult life, Phil, I have been asking myself, why do I not succeed at a higher level? It seems like I get to this point where I'm about to break through and it collapses. And I go through this vicious cycle year after year, decade after decade of where I'm getting close to big success and then I fail. That sentence, I guess he didn't think I was worth sticking around for, made me realize that's the story I've been telling myself my whole life.
Oh, wow.
Relationships, business. I used to brag when I was much younger, I've never been dumped. And I hadn't been. Well, now I understand why, and I no longer brag about it because I was leaving relationships because at some level I knew I wasn't worth sticking around for. So I'll save you the trouble and all the pain, I'll just leave first. I would succeed in sales up to a point, but then I would stop taking the necessary actions to have more sales success or to help more people because I knew I wasn't worth sticking around for, doing business with. And the moment I uncovered that, it's like the light went on, the doors, the heavens parted, I saw it. And it didn't mean everything changed overnight, but I could start to analyze my behavior. And when I started that avoidance behavior or didn't want to have the conversation or pick up the phone, it's like, okay, what story's playing? That story no longer fits here. Served its purpose when I was little. It's got to go away now. And I replaced the story I tell myself. And loved frying that chicken.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had that chicken your whole life and you didn't even know. Really?
Didn't realize it.
Conversation with your son last year.
Yep.
That's impressive. So you founded Speaking CPR, and I know one of the things that you do quite a lot of, and you're very, very good at it, is you work on people's storytelling skills and getting stories
Absolutely.
up. Tell me more about that.
Well, look, I'm not the first person to say this. You know, this storytelling is the heart of what we do as human beings. I mean, it is embedded in us, in our cultures, in our histories. It's how we pass on our morals and ethics, etc. And I've always been fascinated with story. I didn't realize it till I got into this. I look back. I loved to read as a kid. Loved stories. Love all the movies. We grew up with the Star Wars and heck, even Harry Potter, because my son Brendan loved those. But people think because they're sharing facts and figures and experiences, they're telling stories, and they're not. There's not effective stories. The harshest way I've ever heard this put was an acting coach told her class one day, just because it happened to you doesn't make it interesting for the rest of us.
Wow.
That's harsh, but you know what? It's true.
Right.
When you think about it, storytelling is very popular in the business world, and I hear a lot of people telling what they think are stories, but they're really just reports. And what drives me on this is there's so many good ideas, and we're changing so fast as a society. There's so many good ideas that never make it to market that could improve millions of lives because the story that the founder or the creator is telling isn't resonating. I mean, just take your idea for a moment. I first heard it in 2011 in that contest, and I knew right away you had something powerful. I had no idea you were going to turn it into a career, and thank gosh you did, because people now see those internal stories. I mean, I see my internal messages as chickens now, and I want to fry them. You made it something tangible. I mean, if you had never learned how to tell stories, it may have never gotten past the contest. So, I mean, you're an inspiration of taking one idea and turning it into something that is changing people all over the world. And that's a literal term, not a figurative one. And I love helping people do that.
Well, first off, thank you. And second off, tell us about, I'm not going to say show us your abs, but you have a story.
I have a button down shirt. I could.
Now, this is a no ab zone, at least for our episode.
Okay.
You know, I've got some personal trainers that are going to come on later that probably have much better abs than you or I. We are not talking about literal fried chickens, and we are not talking about literal abs. Tell us about your abs storytelling model.
Yeah, this is not an idea that I invented. I've evolved it from ideas I got from people in Hollywood, of all places. And the concept behind that is every story that's memorable and impactful follows a structure of a character who has an aspiration. They achieve this, they're living their ideal life. But in the pursuit of that aspiration, there's a problem, a challenge they overcome. And they can't solve it on their own. They need a mentor, a wise person to come in and help them. They get that solution, they implement it, eventually they solve the problem, and they live a new and better life because of it. That's every story you've ever read that sticks with you.
Yeah.
So the ABS it's an acronym for 3 words: and, but, and so. The word and is the setup part. That sets up the aspiration, where we're introducing a character who lives an everyday life and has this dream. I'd love to live this certain way, right? And in pursuing that, they hit this problem, which is introduced by the word but. Now, I will contend that the word but is the most important word in storytelling. It could be just the opposite in everyday conversation. If I come on here and say, hey, Phil, really love that office setup you've got, that those bats, those trophies, but, right, everything I said just got wiped out.
Right.
It's just the opposite in storytelling. But introduces the conflict, which introduces emotion. But this thing happened. And all of a sudden, I'm going down this new road, and I've got a problem. I don't know how to solve it, and that institutes the new goal. Now I've got a clarity of a goal I need to overcome. So in first grade, I'm living my everyday life. I act up in class. I get in trouble. My teacher says, stand on your desk. That's what I had to do. And my classmates made fun of me. That's what happened. Now my goal, because of that, is to never speak in front of people again.
Yep.
And I just go down that road. And eventually I'm learned that's not my goal. My goal is to not be humiliated. That's what it is. And speaking is one way I can avoid that. So every story follows that path.
No, it makes a lot of sense. You can play those. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so introduces the resolution. And we don't just stop with, I achieved the goal. We need to know how that improved your life, what life is like today, because aspirationally, that's what our audience wants too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can think about any movie you've seen, any story you've told. You mentioned Harry Potter earlier. You've got that whole A, B, and, but, and so model in there. And I think the other thing I wanted to add as you were talking through that is buts are not good in the conversation. But when it comes to storytelling, you like big butts and you cannot lie.
Absolutely, you cannot. And if you don't like puns, you don't have to use the word but. You can use however, yet, on the other hand. But I do say that every story needs a big but. Absolutely.
And if you don't like puns, why exactly did you tune into this podcast?
That's right. Don't you know who Phil is?
Don't tune out. Don't tune out, right? 5 stars, please. But
Like and share, like and share.
I wanted to be serious, but I like puns, so I featured them. There we go.
Love it. See, instituted it right away. And what's nice about this, I learned about it as a storytelling process, but I use it in emails, everyday conversations. You can do 30-second stories with it. When I'm talking about clients, here's a client. She would love to increase her sales, and she's working very hard on these stories. But every time she gives one, she struggles. She doesn't get the response she wants. She's very frustrated. And if she doesn't solve this problem, she might lose her job because she's not selling enough. So we instituted a new process for her. She learned the framework. She started working it. And now she's doubled her sales. I mean, something very quickly.
That's awesome. I love that model.
Yeah.
One of the things as a storytelling coach, one of the things you do is you coach people who are giving TEDx talks.
Yes.
And there's one name that I absolutely recognize, NFL Hall of Famer Anthony Muñoz. You coached Anthony Muñoz. Tell us about your experience coaching Anthony Muñoz. Because I couldn't get Sam Weiss or any of his other coaches on the podcast for various reasons. So tell us about coaching Anthony Muñoz.
If you do get Sam Weiss, let me know, because that would be beyond the grave. That would be interesting.
That would be impressive.
Would be. Yeah, my first year of coaching Cincinnati TEDx 2015, I was very fortunate. I got paired up with this Anthony Muñoz. Now, what was interesting is I'm a lifelong Bengals fan. You can send your sympathy wishes to Michael at speakingcpr.com and Phil for being a Browns fan. We both, we're Ohio football fans. So I get paired up with Anthony, and first time we met, I said, Anthony, do you mind if we get the fanboy thing out of the way? Because I watched this man his whole career in person. So, and we did. Wonderful. He's one of the few people I've met in my life who has a stellar reputation, who's even better than the reputation. He's that kind of human being. Highly coachable. I mean, we would work on a concept, and by the time I drove back to my office, it was in my inbox. I mean, that's why he's a Hall of Famer, because he has a work ethic. Easy to work with, had a wonderful story that was so human about in his college career, superb athlete. Now, this was in the late 70s. He had 3 knee surgeries. Now, back then, knee surgeries were a death knell, especially for an NFL football player. And everybody said, you're not going to be in the pros. Your knee's a mess. Well, he gets drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals, third pick in the NFL draft. He goes on to have a Hall of Fame career, considered the greatest at his position in history. Never missed a game because of an injury. Now, that's the impressive part. However, I knew intuitively that if we put him out there on a TEDx stage, people are going to be like, well, that's nice, but I'm not an NFL football player. What made his story shine was the story of him and his mom. And that's where he got most emotional. He talked about how his mom raised him and his 4 siblings. His father wasn't around. The message, and I still remember it, is you got to move forward with what you got. And he told a story of they didn't have any money. This wasn't one of those stereotypical stories. He said, we got our shoes from Walmart, and we had to put newspaper in the bottoms when the soles ran out because we couldn't buy new shoes. But our mom's motto was, move forward with what you got. And in the middle of it, he'd never gotten upset or emotional during the rehearsals. But he was talking about being in his 3rd year of college. He had just gotten married to his wife, Dee Dee, and it was the low point for him. And he went back to that moment, and he stopped, and he said to the TEDx crowd, I'm sorry, bear with me, this gets very emotional for me. He was no longer an NFL Football Hall of Famer. He was Anthony going through a tough time in life, and that's where he connected with us. And so cool. Time after time, whether it's TEDx or even your stories, that low point is where we connect. And that's what most people miss because they think storytelling's about look what I've done. Look at me. This is great. This is awesome. I'm wonderful. And they skip over the struggle, which is where the sale is made, the sale of the idea.
Yeah.
And TEDx has been a wonderful experience.
Yeah. How many, do you know approximately how many people you've coached? I know.
I've worked with 50 or 60 people.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. And you learn so much, but here's a secret tip. My clients, I think their videos, it's over 6 million times have been viewed. And one of those is over half of the views. And I discovered something important about TEDx talks. Your title is very important. So if you want your TEDx talk to be viewed millions of times, put the word pornography in the title. Because Jason, my client, and he didn't do it for dramatic purposes. There was a purpose. His title of his story is Pornography is Not Your Problem. It's all about his addiction to pornography. And it's so creative what he did to even get on the TEDx stage. It's a breakup letter. That's all I'll say. If you want to watch it, go watch it. It's creative. It's creative.
You did a great job with that one.
Well, he I appreciate that, and as I've told you too, because you get a lot. You said some nice things about our work together. It's like you can be a good coach only if the person's coachable, and if they do the work.
Yeah.
And he did. He nailed it, and it was so well done. But see, on the surface, people looking at that, well, I don't look at pornography, it doesn't relate to me. Actually, it does, because it's not about the label, it's about addiction, period. And we're all addicted to something. Absolutely. It's drugs, it's cigarettes, it's baseball bats or chickens. We all have our addictions. And some people are willing to deal with them. Some people are willing to deal with them. Just say, Phil, go back and watch the video. I didn't want to do this publicly, but we need to work with you on this chicken thing. We have to have an intervention.
If you don't believe people don't have addiction problems, check out the tables at dinner where everybody's like this.
No kidding. Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
And I am as guilty as anyone on my phone. Sometimes I'm just like, put it down. And it's human. Human nature is you can get addicted to anything other than rubber chickens, which are fine. You come to my keynote, I'll give you one for free. Oh, wait a minute. This wasn't about me. I keep forgetting.
Wait, that's called justification. And like I said, I'm going to get with Beth and see if we can't do an intervention, because we're a little concerned.
I'm writing down my complaint. Oh, shoot.
No, you don't have a problem.
Never mind. I don't have
You're good to go.
Don't have a problem.
But yeah, TEDx, great experience.
Yeah. What do you enjoy most about your job now? And we may have touched on this, but
it's when I get that call that says, oh, hey, I went out there and it was so different. I could tell the people were engaged. They asked questions. They came up to me afterward and said how much they appreciated the message. I never would have believed this back in my days when I was competing, but I get as much, if not more so, satisfaction out of my client's success when I get those calls, those emails that says, I had them in the palm of my hand, and whatever, they want to buy more of my product, they want to buy my book. It doesn't matter what the end result is, as long as it's positive. That's what jazzes me. And there's another part to that is I feel like I'm just scratching the surface on what I know about storytelling, because I'm always picking up more insights and nuances, which it helps to be amongst many great coaches, some of the best in the world, and they push you. They do. Without being pushy, their expertise and what comes out of their mouths is like, well, that's pretty good. I want to improve my game now.
Right. And I talk about one of the chickens you need to fry is there it is. Comfort zone Carl just wants to stay on the couch, and you need to get out of your comfort zone. And that's what a good coach can do, is help you get out of your comfort zone, encourage you to get out of your comfort zone, kick you right smack in the big butt you cannot lie, and get you out of your comfort zone. Because when you get out there and you start doing things, and you're all of a sudden, wow. And that's when they come back to you and go, Mike, it worked. Thank you so much. I moved people.
Yeah, it is. And I have to follow my own advice. I get a little bit lazy with my own stories. It's like, wait a minute, we need to do something different. Hey, this stuff works, right? So why don't you use it yourself?
Isn't that great? Because if you don't do that, it's like, this advice is good for you, but I don't.
There are times I'll be in a coaching session. It happened a couple of weeks ago with a group, and I shared some. I know it works, and I stopped and I said, I think I should start using this too. I think I'll use it. And they thought that was pretty funny. I said, well, it is, but the sad truth is I haven't been using it, and I should be because I know it works. My clients are proof.
Now, I know you do speak in addition to coaching speakers. Question, do you still get nervous before you speak?
Every time. That little old chicken in there is saying, oh, well, it's worked till now, but this group's different. I've got it going on today because I've got a big 5-hour workshop tomorrow with a group of executives of a company, and I've been working with their frontline salespeople and customer service for the last 6 weeks, getting wonderful responses. We tweaked it along the way, but really it's going very well. But the chicken said, yeah, but those are the salespeople. These are the executives. Mm-hmm. He showed up this morning, and I said, well, you may be right, but here's what I'm going to have you do. Could you go over there and we'll talk about it Wednesday? I'm learning to procrastinate my chickens.
I love it. That's a great idea. Fry you later.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going to fry you, but I don't have time now. I don't have time to listen to you, so we'll just talk about it later.
We'll see who's right or who's wrong 2 days from now. That's a great idea. All right. Now, you have Chihuahuas.
I do.
Here's your wild card question. Between Chihuahuas and a coop full of chickens, who would win in a neurotic showdown and why?
Chihuahuas. They have a lot of neuroses. One of my two is just a sweetheart. She gets nervous, but the other one's shaky, neurotic. They think they're bigger than they are, so they will start the fight, but then they'll run behind me and let me finish it. Right? The chickens would be on the defensive the first few seconds, and then they realize, wait a minute, we're bigger and we outnumber them, and they're shaking. I hate to say it, but the chickens would take the Chihuahuas down.
Okay. Well, I think you're right. What chicken do you still have to fry? And how do you do it? What's the biggest chicken you face? I mean, we heard the story of the...
Yeah.
But
I think the biggest one is still outreach to new prospective clients. The chicken that says, well, they probably already have somebody. They're very busy. There's so many people out there. I mean, your message isn't going to get through. So, yeah, I still deal with that one. And again, it doesn't happen all the time, but I go back to the story that helped me get over the one that said you're not worth sticking around for. It's like, well, I've got proof that that's not true. Mm-hmm. I got a partner who loves me. She's great. I got 2 sons. I got a granddaughter. I got this friend group. I've got all these people in the National Speakers Association. I got all these other groups I work with. Look, the list is pretty long, so that beats that up. So then I go, when I start, the chicken says, well, they're not going to want to do business with you. I just look at my client list. Yep. And not one of those people has ever called me up and said, you were worthless. You're a piece of crap. You're all the negative voices. It's like, all right, I've got proof. So it's just stopping it long enough to interrupt. And I always tell people this about nerves when speaking. You're not going to get rid of them. You don't want to. You just got to manage them and say, let's tell a different story. Because that is the great author Stephen Pressfield calls it the voice of resistance. You don't get rid of it. You just push it out there and keep pushing it out and keep proving now you're not right.
I'll have to put the War of Art in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Your links. Any last story, insight, encouragement you'd like to give the audience around people who would need to fry their own chickens?
Yes. And this is, I know you see this too. We've talked about it a lot, Phil. Most people, when they present, pack their presentations with information. I'm not a psychologist. I do play one on TV. But here's why, and it's taken me years as a coach to discover why they do this. It's insecurity, number one. I've got to prove to these people that I know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to overload with information. Why do I know that? Because when I was a young financial advisor, I would pack my presentations with info because I was young. I didn't know all this, although it turned out I knew more than most people I talked to because I had the education, but that doesn't matter. It's that chicken is in there saying, you're not good enough, you don't know enough, you're not worth sticking around for. So dump information on them. We got to stop doing that because you mentioned our addiction here. These phones, they can give me more information right now than you can ever give me. And sometimes it's correct.
Sometimes.
Right? What people want from you, if you're asked to give a presentation, share your story, they want your perspective. They are bombarded with information. I mean, all kidding aside about the internet, it's full of contradictions. So it's not the best source. Even ChatGPT, which you and I use a lot, it's like, really? You didn't say that 5 minutes ago.
Right.
So give them your perspective because that is something that you own. That is your pot of gold that nobody can duplicate. If you're in business, people can duplicate your product to a certain extent. They can, facts and figures, they can duplicate that. They cannot duplicate your story. That's yours. So share your stories, your experiences of how you struggled and overcame them, because ultimately the reason we speak to people is to give them hope.
If you start quoting statistics, you are inviting them to pick up their phone and say, is that real with ChatGPT? And once they've got their phone in the hand, you've lost them. If you've got a good story, the phones are going to stay down there because I don't want to pick up my phone and miss the next detail of what that teacher did or any of your stories. I'm tuned in. So
exactly. Well, and that I'm going to give you one more, and this is where I get on a soapbox. You got to be careful when it comes to statistics or common myths. And the one that I rail against frequently is the 7% myth. The one that says 7% of communication is the word you use. I've heard highly paid, highly respected people use this over and over, and it is not true. And the story behind that is people believe that communication is 55% body language, 38% tone, 7% words. Or those first two might be twisted around, but the 7% is the words you use. Well, that never rang true with me. So I did the research and found that the original study said that when your body, face, and tone of voice are in contrast to the words you're saying, people believe the nonverbal is 93% of the time.
Makes sense.
And it's a real simple example. If we came on to say, Mike, how you doing? I feel, man, I'm doing super. I'm doing great. You're like, no, you're not.
Right.
That's what the study said. What he didn't say was, all the time, every communication, 7%, it's the words you use. In fact, when everything's in alignment, your words are the most important part.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And my example I use is Dr. Martin Luther King or Ronald Reagan. Dr. King, standing in front of the Lincoln Memorial. If he got up there and said, well, I've been thinking, and I just want to bounce this off of you. Now, I don't want to be too pushy, but just think about this. If we could all be, no, we'd have laughed him off the stage and that would have been it. Or if Reagan had said, hey, Mr. Gorbachev, wonder if you might think about this for a minute. Could you maybe kind of consider, hey, it could be a project, send it to a committee. Maybe we could start to tear down this wall, maybe? No, he didn't say that. And we remember Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Yeah. And even his verbal and his facial have been the same. Think about tearing down that wall eventually.
That's right, exactly right. It would have been silly. I mean, Dr. King was behind a lectern. Well, so was Reagan, but it's like we didn't see gestures and all that. We heard tone of voice with power, but the word, I have a dream.
Yep. Absolutely.
You could have watered that down and we wouldn't remember it. So there's my soapbox. But just my point is be careful about what you're sharing with others as proof. Go check it out.
Yep. Always. Where can people find you online? How can we find you?
I love that pause because I was about to say, well, I'm here in my office. You can
Yes.
come online, Michael at you can speakingcpr.com. You can email me, Michael at speakingcpr.com. And if you want a resource that I've created, no cost, no obligation, 52storytellinginsights.com.
And all of those links will go in the show notes, so you can be easily found.
Absolutely. And I'll be here working on my chickens.
Mike Davis, my friend, always enjoyable to talk to you. I always learn a lot. And great to see you again. So.
You too. And I'm glad you asked me to be on the second edition because I knew after the first one you'd work out all the kinks, so no problems today. So thank you, Leslie, for being the guinea pig or guinea chicken on episode 1.
As the case may be, yeah.